Good afternoon, everyone. As a group task assigned by Professor Dilip Barat sir, I am going to present about the article on the translation studies. And this article is by Ganesh Devy, Translation and Literary History and Indian Overview. Me and Aditi Bala are the member of the group and the table of the content. So in this presentation, I am going to talk about abstract key arguments, finding and analysis and conclusion. So what are the keywords of these articles? Like translating Irish works into English, literary history and translation, critics view Roman Jacobson, language as a system of sign, translating consciousness, Chomsky's linguistic, the concept of semantic universals, J.C. Catford, linguistic of translation, fields of humanistic, and the problems in translation study. So let's discuss about the abstract of this article. This article is about the role of translation in communicating literary movement across linguistic borders. In this article, very beginning of this article, it is said that according to J. Hillis Miller, translation is the wandering existence of a text in a perpetual exile. Chaucer, Dryden, and the Pope used the tools of translation to recover a sense of order. The tradition of Anglo-Irish literature branched out of translating Irish works into English, and no critic has taken well-defined position on the place of translation in literary history. Origin of literary movements and literary traditions inhabit various acts of translation. Translations are popularly perceived as unoriginal. Not much thought has been devoted to the aesthetics of translation. So what are the key arguments in this article? In this article, critic Roman Jacobson in his essay on the linguistic of translation proposed a threefold classification of translations. One is those from one verbal order to another verbal order within the same language system. Second is those from one language system to another language system. And third is those from a verbal order to another system of signs. Another reference is about Chomsky's linguistics, the concept of semantic universals. It plays an important role. However, his level of abstraction marks the furthest limits to which monolingual Sassorian linguistic materialism can be stretched. In actual practice, even in Europe, the translating consciousness treats the second language and the third language as a part of a larger and continuous spectrum of various interesting system of verbal signs. Critic J.C. Catford presents a comprehensive statement of theatrical formulation about the linguistic of translation in a linguistic theory of translation, in which he seeks to isolate various linguistic levels of translation. His basic premise is that since translation is a linguistic act, any theory of translation must emerge from linguistics. Translation is an operation performed on language, a process of substituting a text in one language for a text in another. Clearly, then, any theory of translation must draw upon a language, a general linguistic theory. During 19th century, Europe had distributed various fields of humanistic knowledge into a threefold hierarchy. Comparative study of Europe for Europe, Orientalism for the Orient, and anthropology for the rest of the world. After the discovery of Sanskrit by Sir William Jones, historical linguistics in Europe depended heavily on the Orientalism. And after Saussure and Lévi-Strauss, linguistics started treating language with an anthropological curiosity. What are the findings and analysis of this article? So this article is focuses on the problems in translation studies. What are the problems during the translation? The translation problem is not just a linguistic problem. It is an aesthetic and ideological problem with an important bearing on the question of literary history. Literary translation is not just a replication of a text in another verbal system of signs. It is a replication of an ordered subsystem of signs within a given language in another corresponding ordered subsystem of signs within a related language. The translation is not a transposition of significance or sign. After the act of translation is over, the original work still remains as it is. And translation is rather an attempted revitalization of the original in another verbal order and temporal space. Like literary text, the continue to belong to their original periods and styles and also exist through successive chronological period. Translation at once approximates the original and transcends it. And the problem in translation study is the relationship between origins and sequentiality. The very foundation of modern Indian literatures was laid through act of translation, whether by Jaidev, Hemchandra, Madhusudan Dutt or Bankim Chandra Chatterjee. Conclusion. So I found the conclusion from this article is that comparative literature implies between two related languages there are areas of significance that are shared, and just as there may be areas of significance that never can be shared. When the soul passes from one body to another, it does not lose any of its essential significance. In this article, researcher has given a very true metaphor to the translation. He compared translation to the soul of the body. As soul of the body does not lose its essential significance, like that while we are doing translation studies or translation from one language to another, we cannot lose the essence or significance of that translation. Indian philosophies of the relationship between form and essence, structure and significance are guided by this metaphysics. And the true test is the writer's capacity to transform, to translate, to restate, and to revitalize the original. And in that sense, Indian literary traditions are essentially traditions of translation. Thank you.